The actual video out there that I kind of got a hold of before, we already planned out the show and everything we were going to talk about. But LL gets on stage and calls out, you know what? Let me just play it. I don't think we're going to get any flags if I play it. I
Are
want to.
other people going to be able to hear it properly, though?
Yeah, they should be able to. If not, y'all let me know. Let's see. I'll put it in the mic real quick. I'm shouting out to all you rappers trying to play mystery man. Stop talking about your legacy. Get on this goddamn stage, man. A lot of dudes were around. I didn't realize that was Black Thought in the back, actually. Black Thought sitting there laughing. But yeah, he said a lot of rappers are out here playing Mystery Man and won't get on the stage to perform. And, people are questioning if that's directed at Jay. And I know when we posted it in that way, people are like, y'all making up stuff. Y'all trying to come at Jay, yada, yada. Well, who is he talking about then? I mean, because we talk about Hip Hop 50, who's the only person that hasn't kind of come outside with the collective and we're talking about all-time greats? I mean, he's not talking about Rakim. Rakim performs all the time. He was just performing in the Bronx, right?
Rakim was just down here.
Exactly.
Rakim just performed down here.
Yeah, Nas, obviously. You know what I'm saying? The only other person I could say on an all-time great list, I mean, and Kendrick's on tour and all that stuff. Drake's on tour. The only other person on the all-time list is Eminem, and he's not talking about Eminem. That's his guy. I thought about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when LL performed with Eminem, and Jay didn't perform at all. And so when I hear statements like this, I'm like, well, when I hear statements like this, I'm like, well, I know who this is directed at. I mean, am I off? Am I wrong?
So if it appears like Jay is acting like he's above the fray, it's because we allowed it, and I've been saying that. So it's like I don't even think the issue should be with him. It's the over-evaluation of him as an MC. And not saying over-evaluation like he's not rated properly or like he shouldn't be rated as high as he is. But it's been overimposed and overemphasized for so long that, well, this is the world that he exists in.
He's above his peers.
He's been treated this way. I mean, not being funny, not to bring it up. It's like Mike, he took the worst L in hip hop history, and people tried to act like it was a draw, like in terms of the treatment. It's like, oh, that happened. He's still the greatest of all time. It's like if that happens to anybody else, we don't say that.
True. Thumbs up in the chat, everybody. Mad Max with the super chat says, Braun was the best player, though, Coop. Oscar wasn't. And in 2014, the Thunder were hurt. DFW Herbie says, what do y'all think about Ebro's comments? I think we addressed that last episode. 36 Chambers with the super chat says, of course, it was considered disrespectful for Jay to not play Hip Hop 50. Multiple publications this year have crowned Jay the GOAT. Show love then. And let's see.
He doesn't have to. This is what I mean about how it's
regardless.
This is what I mean about it's set up. You know what I mean? Like the media has done this. The fan base has done this. It's like, I can remember, and I mean, this is how long it's been going on. I can remember when the Blueprint came out. Like, that was one of those moments where it's like people were literally walking around. That's the greatest MC that ever lived after the Blueprint. And it's like, I was like, where? Yeah. Over who? Based on what at that point? And that's what I mean about the over-evaluation.
So you think that Jay is a media darling still?
I mean, media darling is a strong word. I've told you, and I don't apologize for this, he's paid for a lot of that. Dame has admitted that they paid for a lot of that. So it's not that he's a darling. Here's what he is. He paid for a lot of this. Dame has let it be known that he paid for a lot of this. But he is the most charismatic person in the room, so he is a great interview. Being the greatest interviewer, being the most charismatic person in the room, and paying for some of your spots does not make you the greatest MC of all time or above the fray. And I have literally been saying this for the last 20 years. Just when I said it 20 years ago, sound like a hater. Say it 10 years ago, sound like a hater. How it look today?
36 Chambers with the super chat says, we get a Brooklyn exhibit celebrating Jay's legacy, but he was the biggest omission of Hip Hop 50.
Why didn't he perform at that event?
How can someone so regarded not celebrate their origin?
Why didn't he perform at that event? You see what I mean about the Above the Fray? It's like, oh no, he had a whole event that he hosted himself. He didn't perform at.
Mad Max of the Super Chat says, allegedly, it was for Jalil from Houdini. Huh? No. Really? So y'all saying that... So you want to say this isn't about Jay, it's about rapper Jalil from Houdini?
Not being...
Come on, man. You know what?
Stop that.
I don't know any backstory on that,
why.
but I would imagine
That's
that
why.
LL Cool J, being the legend that he is, he respects Houdini and Run DMC too much as his OGs to even speak on them in this fashion. Like, come on.
He would never do that.
He would never do that. DFW Herbie with the Super Chat says, Jay is too busy. Hold on. I lost you real quick. Jay is too busy being his wife's opening act. LOL.
See, that's just shady.
Jay Short with the Super Chat says, I can't believe I'm opposing LL, but I don't think that you have to perform to contribute to hip-hop. We need to be bigger than that. Jay could use Tidal or his influence to promote hip-hop in other ways.
No, that's not totally true, and I'll tell you why that's not totally true. Jay's legacy has been hurt by him not performing.
Yeah.
That's just a fact, because here's what you not performing speaks to. Well, I told you, some of this stuff sounds like it was made for the times, not all time.
Right.
And so one in critique could say, well, he don't perform like that because those records don't hit like that anymore.
Yeah. One could say that those records didn't age the best, and that's why we're not.
And I told you, it's like,
performances.
think about what his best songs are to us and tell me how that plays live. It's like, no, I love the Evils. It's like live performance of the Evils, Imaginary Player.
I like the live performance that we got from the Evils on Fade to Black, I think it was.
What year was that?
That was 2003. And you know what's so funny about that, though?
20 years ago.
Yeah.
You haven't heard that song performed live in 20 years? You hear what I'm saying?
Not that I could think of. Maybe on the B-sides, but I don't really
Maybe the
remember.
B-sides. I don't remember the B-sides.
This is what's interesting, though. Back in 2003, and I guess because we were much younger, it felt like a song from 96 was ancient. You know what I'm saying? Like, it felt like a long time. Now we're looking back. That was 20 years ago. Now, this is a long time. This is what a long time really is. Mad Max of the Super Chat says, worst loss, Ja Rule, Mo D, Meek Mill, way worse.
None of those battles became an adjective to describe what happens to a person in a battle.
Okay, this is the thing, though, Mad Max, and I want to break this down.
Adjective to describe somebody taking an L, Mike. It's the biggest
Ja
L ever.
Rule was different. That was a whole nother thing.
That was some clean shit.
The Mo D thing, I think, was different, too. I think that was just the times changing. You had somebody from a previous generation and somebody who was the current generation. And I think that's kind of what told the tale
transitional
in that
moment.
Battle. Yeah, because a lot of people who came from Mo D's era feel like he won. The Meek Mill thing, okay, I'll give you that one.
Maybe.
No, that one I'll give
That's
you.
pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Anime Bros Podcast with the Super Chat says, he missed the GOAT music, just can't express it. He misses the GOAT music, just can't express it. I think that's what he meant. Okay. Peter Parks with the Super Chat says, Jay does not really represent hip-hop in its purest form. He never has. Blame the puppets. This is what I got to say, though.
No, he represents hip-hop in a pure form, so that's not fair to him either.
I do think that, and you're on to something when you say that, you know, even without any output, the publications are still putting Jay at the number one spot. So it's like he doesn't have to come outside because he has these spots on lock without having to do anything else. The guy that we always have debated who's better between him and the other guy went out here and put out 5 quality projects in 3 years, and it still didn't move Jay's spot. So why would he come outside? You're right. The people have done this.
And look at it like this, and you'll probably see this now. Do you remember when we were younger and you used to see commercials, like, and it'd be like for middle-aged men? You felt like when we were in our 20s? It's because, you know, middle-aged men and women tend to run corporate America. So part of this deification of him comes from our age bracket.
You're right.
Because the person that is our age, Mike, that's running some of these media companies now. Well, when he was the man, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they're living on some nostalgia stuff.
They're living
for
on
them,
some
yeah.
nostalgia stuff. Now they're responsible and editor-in-chief and responsible for putting all this stuff out.
No, that's
and
fair.
they're really stuck on their nostalgia of him instead of looking at it objectively and fairly.
Yeah, and I noticed that too, even doing this show, because I try to look at everything objectively and fairly and take in all of the, the input that the people give. People give great feedback and all of that. But some people, when you talk to them just in the surface world at the barbershop, they pick their horse and they're going to ride with it. And nothing you can say is going to change that. Nothing you could tell them about, a King's Disease series or a Magic series is going to change anything.
Right. They're just people just are where they are.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are responsible for disseminating information to the masses, it can't be about what you felt about a man 20, 25 years ago when you were in your formative years.
Right.
It needs to be an objective opinion coming from the top so that it trickles down to the rest of the staff and the rest of the media people or whatever specific organization it is that you're running or responsible for. And he just has so many people in positions of power that, quite frankly, were fans of his stuff when he was the hottest thing going.
Mm-hmm.
It's like hottest thing going, not best thing going. So people just like reflex from our generation. It's like, oh, it's Jay. It's like, okay, why? Break it down for me. Because it's like I told you, it's like, well, people bring up this $5 million. It's like, okay, how'd that $5 million really look? Because we bought up the Can I Get On the Rush Hour soundtrack. We bought up the Annie sample, the DMX feature.
I feel like the Annie joint did it.
But I mean, it's a lot of help, Mike. It's like,
yeah, it is.
I Am did 3 million with Hate Me Now. It's just Puff on a hook. The rest of it's just Nas.
No,
you
you're
feel
right.
what I'm saying? It's like, no, if Jay doesn't do Can I Get It and take Ja Rule's hook.
Well, that's the thing.
If 45 King doesn't hand him the Annie sample, it's like, no, he's going to do about another 2-3 mil. And you know what I mean? So it gets inflated because it's him.
Well, that's the thing,
Like,
too.
Jay's $5 million is bigger than Snoop's $5 million to some people, and that's wild to me.
The thing is that's really weird, though, is the fact, like you said, there is a lot of help there. And that's fine, whatever, because we know Jay can make records himself.
His best records
But
are by himself.
His best records are by himself.
Best records are
His
solo
hit
missions.
records are collabos, right? But with that being said, how does that put you above the fray, like you're Michael Jackson or something, when a lot of that stuff that's big is collabo stuff? That's all I'm saying. And I agree with LL on that. I mean, LL has rocked the bells. I mean, figuratively and literally. But you know what I mean? Records like that, it's just him. Now, if you want to sit there and say, we're doing a versus with LL and Jay-Z, and we're talking about records with just them by themselves, Jay doesn't stand a chance against L. And that's just real.
He can't go hit for L without help.
Exactly. And so with that being said, the whole hip-hop collective helped you to become who you are, so you can't really be above the fray like that.
Okay.
You didn't make Thriller. Everything that you hear on Thriller is that nigga.
Okay.
With the exception of Paul on there.
No.
Background vocals, everything. It's just that guy.
No, Mike, here's my real problem with the commentary, and here's how I know that it is biased and it's not objective.
Mm-hmm.
For as great as Reasonable Doubt is, Mike, for as great as it is,
Yep.
I do not think that is a top 5 rap album all time.
No, it's not. And I love Reasonable Doubt.
I don't think it's top 10 either. And so the fact that he's risen to his heights, when your best album isn't even a top 10 rap album all time, like Reasonable Doubt's not better than Doggy Style.
Yeah.
It's not better than Only Built for Cuban Links. It's not better than It Takes a Nation to Millions. It's not better than Illmatic. It's not. Like, and so it's like, if he's that, show me the record where it's like that. Because also, too, the record that you would play might have his biggest competition on the fucking hook, Mike.
Possibly.
What are we talking about?
Leroy Green with the super chat. Shout out to Leroy.
Oh,
Says,
here
"Cool.
goes Leroy.
Jay has been rapping and performing for 30 years now. How much would you and LL like to hear at this point? People talking down on him and ain't
Nobody's talking.
ain't do no. I'm sorry. People talking down on him ain't do more.
I'm not talking down on him. I'm being objective about what it is.
Well, hold up, Leroy. You can't say that about LL. You can say that about us, but you're gonna say that about L. Like, L's done a lot. L has the ability, and he he has the cachet to say anything about anybody in hip hop. That's LL.
I'm not saying anything disrespectful about the man,
Nobody
Mike.
is.
Just
Nobody
saying
is.
the truth. It's the truth, Mike. Them hits got a lot of help. That's the truth. He paid for a lot of these spots. Dame has said so. That's the truth. He doesn't have a top 5 rap album. That's the truth. His best mic performance might have his biggest competition on the hook. That's the truth.
And you still have him at number 2. Though.
And I still have him at number 2.
Jay Short with the $50 super chat. Showing love. He says, I get what you're saying musically, Coop, but at some point, we need elders like Jay and Diddy to build an infrastructure in hip-hop so that we can profit fully from our performance, whether it's media, labels, or venues. The previous generation didn't do that. What I would have to say to that, though, Jay Short, and I do agree with you, but we still can't say you're number 1 on the rap circuit if you're not the rapper. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, if you want to do those things behind the scene, I think that's great. That ups your level as an entrepreneur and as a a titan and a mogul in hip hop. Then yeah, you could pass Russell and all that stuff. But if we're talking about on the mic and on the stage, I don't see how that elevates you by not going out there doing what your peers are doing.
So what if I were to tell you that, Mike, part of why he's so held high is because, well, he was becoming this businessman while he was making this great material at the same time. And that's why people
Very
are
impressive, too.
so enamored. So, Mike, and I say this like in all seriousness, y'all do understand that Nas is literally doing that right now. Like right now, like that's going on. He says it on Speechless. I must be insane giving you bars while running companies.
But I don't think that he is as
notarized,
flashy about it as,
Correct.
Jay once was.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's what I mean about Jay being the most charismatic person in the room. People are under the assumption that there aren't people like Snoop and Nas are bosses just like Jay. It's just not notarized as much.
Yeah.
And so when I was
Dr.
saying,
Dre too.
When I was saying it's like, no, this Nas run is changing everything. I wasn't just talking musically, Mike, because he's like in full on mogul mode and making quality albums at this rate. It's over at that point because that's what Jay is lauded for. It's like he's literally doing Jay better than Jay. He's literally made 5 projects in 3 years, quick turnaround time. He's totally bossed up. He's actually the single guy living the life that everybody else wants to live while Jay is married with kids and hasn't made a good album in over a decade. These are facts. This is not slander. These are facts. I need people to understand that I'm not speaking slanderous. This factually happened, but because it's him, when you say these things, people are like, no. It's like, yes, it's like it's happening.
It's happening. And I'm a fan. I'm just looking objectively.
Mike, when I say he's the second greatest MC of all time, people look at me like I've lost my mind. It's like, you know how many millions of rappers there's been?
Yeah.
And I'm only putting one guy ahead of him. And people look at me like that is absurd. And
a
like
guy that was here before him and after him.
And a guy that has made a better album all time than him, beat him in battle, and is literally outpacing him and outdistancing him on every metric except for sales.
Yeah.
He's literally beat him every way except for sales. And it's like, well, that's why he's number 1, the other guy.
36 Chambers with the super chat says, Jay performing like every artist does not excuse him from not being a part of the culture anymore. He's on the fringe of hip-hop, which looks shady to the culture that built him. It was disrespectful. Charles Manning with the super chat says, Dame said Jay never wanted to be looked at as a rapper, but a businessman. Maybe that's why he hasn't said nothing. And you know what? And I was going to bring that up too.
When people call him the greatest of all time, Mike, he doesn't say, oh, no, stop that. I'm a businessman.
I was just about
to
say that. Because Dame also made the statement that he feels that Jay is self-conscious about being considered a rapper.
He is.
But like you said, when we call him the GOAT, it's not because you're the GOAT businessman. You're the GOAT MC, and you take that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and talk big shit about it.
Andre does that too, though. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, we know why everybody holds Andre high, but you run from rap. It's like you gotta, I don't know.
Okay, so how about this? What he represents isn't what he represents for himself
Mm-hmm.
is not the representation people give him. It's like people understand. It's like, well, he's rejecting that representation that you all give him. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it's like if he was accepting of it, he would be more active.
Right.
Just in general.
Yeah, you're right. Both of them. You talking about Dre or Jay? Both of them, right?
You could say both at this stage.
Yeah.
That's fair. And I'm sure, much like Dre, there's probably stuff that's been worked on that we've never heard and this, that, and the third. But it's like, nah, fam, you're the one that said this is a marathon. You start off fast,
You wheezing in
and
the
now
back.
you wheezing in the back. Isn't that one of those verses that made people think?
Yeah,
Cause
me.
if I'm not mistaken,
But I
that
can
verse
wheeze in my
ends.
back.
That verse ends by saying, "Hove's a living legend," and I tell you why.
Nah. That's not that verse.
Is it?
Nah, this is once again it's because he was like,
Oh yeah.
put out the reason about a Mac, Philadelphia freeway, and I'm back without leaving.
Right,
I'm
that's
here,
the
but
one
you
with
can't
Siegel,
be.
right? I'm talking about the
I
one
gave
with
you the
Ye.
blueprint, but you can't be him. So no matter what you've been
Been
told or
told
the
how
record
much
you
you
sold,
sold, deep
inside
inside
you
you
know
know
that
there's
it's only
only
one
one
Hove.
Hove.
Young Vito, voice of the young people. If my life's a movie, the sequel gonna be the sequel. Yeah, we
Right.
give it to you. Yeah,
Right.
Think it through your people.
So like, no, he bigs up the shit. That I was thinking about the Kanye shit too, where he's like,
Yeah.
Hove's a living legend, and I tell you why.
Same tone.
Everybody want to be Hove.
But Hove's
Hove's
still
still
alive.
alive.
Incredible verse.
Incredible verse. Mike, what year?
That was 04. Mad Max with the super chat says, all right, I used to hate on Jay, but my man's broke it down to me. Years ago, Jay from 96 to 03 was viewed as a top 5, 96 debatable, and he was top 3 most skilled and promoted when he did get on. Jay Boogie with the super chat says, if L was not talking about Jay, he should have. He should have. We know he's successful in life, but rap music did that. But rap music did that. Get on the stage. In fact, get in the booth. No verses or features. It's about the culture, not money.
Mike, this competitive sport, that's what I keep telling people. It's like, no, he doesn't get to dodge the competitive side of this sport, especially when the person he's been compared to the most is out here. Is outside.
You know, it would be one thing.
Outside, Mike, he is outside spitting fucking bars like today.
Yeah.
Like,
because
right.
for most people, his contemporaries would be Nas, Biggie, Pac, right?
I wouldn't count Pac as his contemporary.
But you know, in the
Pac is passing when his first album is coming out, essentially.
But
Pac
in
is
the
not
conversation, and then they'll throw Eminem in there too. It's like from the mass media conversation, they don't compare him to the guys in the 80s. That's what I'm saying. So, like you said, the only guy left really is a guy who's out here active. And you're not active, it looks kind of weird.
Your biggest competition,
it's kind of weird.
Your biggest competition, the person who you were compared to the most, he's arguably the best MC in the game right now, and you haven't made a good album in 10 years.
It's like if, you know, how we have the Biggie and Tupac conversations. That's like if both of them lived, and let's just say Pac was just on a run, late,
right,
and Big wasn't doing anything. It's no conversation anymore.
Well, let's go to one of my favorite sports, tennis, Mike. Roger Federer early on, he's 5 years older than Novak Djokovic and 4 years older than Nadal.
Mm-hmm.
Early on, Mike, waxing that ass, all right? But over a course of time, Nadal and Djokovic not only started whooping his ass, but now have more majors than him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he might have the most beautiful game, and he might be loved the most, Mike, but Federer's not the greatest player of all time. He's the most loved player.
Yeah.
So if you want to say Jay's the most loved MC of all time, the most beloved MC of all time, no, that's totally fair. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Being beloved and being the best are two separate things. Like, there are some kings who are loved more than other kings that haven't done the job of some less beloved kings. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, this is how this story is really getting told. We are confusing beloved with best, and there's difference. And quite frankly, this Nas run is the like literal like flag that shows like the difference. It's like, oh, well, there's your difference.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the best guy. That's the most beloved guy.
Mad Max of the Super Chat says, like, if we're talking about runs, only Drake has a run that lasted longer than Jay when they were the guys.
Okay, so when you're talking about
okay, let's break down the run then.
Right. 96 is not
96 and 97 doesn't count then. If we're gonna be technical here,
okay. So 96 is
the run starts in 98.
96 hip hop wise, Mike, in terms of notoriety, is All Eyes on Me, the score, and It Was Written.
Yeah.
Not Reasonable Doubt. Mike, 97, he left Puff's tour about his ego because he realized how big Puff was.
The man.
And
Mace was the man.
Right.
And Biggie was the man.
Right. So talking about 98?
Yep. And honestly, in 98, X was bigger.
Correct.
If we want to be that.
So now we're going to 99, Mike.
Right.
So we got 99 to what?
I would say 99 to 03.
Mike.
But.
When did the battle happen?
Well, I wasn't even going to go there. I mean, we know that. That was 01.
Okay.
But I was going to say we also had.
So when people talking about this run, Mike, so it's not 96 because 96 is definitely Pac, Fugees, and Nas, right? 97 is definitely Puff and Mace. 98 is definitely DMX. 01 is when you took a L.
03 is 50 Cent.
01 is when you took a L. You took
but he
a
did
L.
make the blueprint, though.
Mike, you took. Mike,
I think the blueprint's
your
better,
first
still
3
better.
years. The first 3 years of your career, you're not the biggest artist in the game. Fact.
Okay.
3 years removed from that, you take the biggest L in rap history. What run are we talking
You think
about?
the biggest L? Now I disagree
Mike,
with
it's
that.
an adjective to describe when people take a loss now, and not just in rap. Mike, I read sports commentaries, and they'd be like, "Yeah, such and such ethered the guy."
I don't think it's the biggest loss because he didn't suffer the biggest amount of damage.
See, that's difference between loss and damage. Give you an example. Oh no, Joe Frazier's loss, the second loss to Muhammad Ali, is why he's not considered the greatest fighter of all time. Not Ali. If Frazier wins that fight, it's Frazier that's the greatest of all time, not Ali. So why is this different?
He still would have to beat George Foreman, but I get what you're saying.
No, he don't. If you beat Ali twice,
Yeah.
and you only lose to George, think about it. Frazier only lost in his prime to Foreman and Ali.
Yeah, because he lost 4 fights. Well, 2 in his prime. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he lost 3 fights in his prime. 2 to Ali, 1 to George.
Right.
He destroyed everybody else, Mike.
Frazier was a great fighter. I was just talking about that yesterday.
And so, in any metric, is he called better than Ali?
Yeah.
So what makes this different? This is very comparable to boxing and tennis in the sense that it is competitive sport. And on the head-to-head,
people would, I'm going to tell you where people would go, and maybe people in the chat are here.
he actually lost twice, Mike. That's still Matic. Freestyle ain't no joke either.
No, I'm going to get to these super chats, but people will go to the notoriety, people will go to the sales, and they'll go to the money.
What the fuck that got to do with spitting these bars? Who's the better MC?
CJ Kid with the super chat says, didn't LL try to battle Jay back when LL was with 50 Cent and G Unit for a short time, and Jay never responded? Don't think that's going to change now. Yeah, I remember that.
So this is what I mean about being charismatic. No, Jay's the best finesser ever. It's like, no, John, let me get that hook. He knows how to get out of people. He's a hustler like that. That don't make him the best MC. It's always been this way. And even with all this being said, I still have him at number 2. Objectively.
Yeah.
And I say that objectively because it's like on my personal list, I have Pac and Biggie ahead of him. I have Rakim ahead of him personally on my list. That's just how I feel. I've always said this. For me, he always falls somewhere between 4 to 7. But the objective part of me that's actually a real journalist is like, oh, I can't have him any worse than 2.
Leroy Green with the super chat says, Coop, every artist that ever signed a record deal was paying for media coverage, including Nas.
That's not true.
And they probably paid more than Jay, who kept hits out. You know what? I will give Leroy Green that credit. He's right. I mean, it's true. It might have been a little bit different for them because it was more so coming from the artist and not the actual executives, but he had his own company, so,
It's different when the artist is literally handing people the money. It's different.
Yeah, because
that's not the label cutting a check and sending it to no.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the artists don't really know a lot of the things that go on behind the scenes, and they think that they're getting this love and these interviews and this play because the record's good. But you got people who work for the label that are doing things behind the scenes that they don't know. This was up front.
Have we dropped the Nick Love interview yet?
No, we're about to drop that in the next couple of days.
We need to drop that so we can talk about some of the things in there because he spoke he spoke to the process a little bit in
Mhm.
terms of behind the scenes to make the explosion happen. And
Right.
we need to drop the interview.
Ab Studios or AB Studios with the super chat says Jay don't acknowledge LL for don't acknowledge LL for 30 years. That hurts him.
I don't know about that.
I don't know if I mean LL's.
Want to do a little AT Aliens talk right quick?
Yeah, 36 Chambers with the super chat says Jay was eclipsed. Jay would eclipse Nas because he's a media personality. Jay hasn't been the MC that he was for a decade now. Ice Spice would eclipse most artists now. That doesn't mean she makes good music. Stop it. Leroy Green with the super chat says, Coop, 50 ended Ja's career, 50 and the Feds. Game ended G Unit.
Mostly the Feds.
LL ended Cannabis. Ether only made Jay's albums keep selling more. So come on now.
No, that's not true. His biggest selling album came out in 1998. So he didn't keep selling more after that. That's why I keep saying this is like outside of that one moment, Mike, he's just been a little bit over a platinum artist, really. Like, you know, I mean, he consistently will go platinum, gold. Like, he ain't consistently sell 5-10 million records. I mean, 50 had his, 50 sold more on one album than Jay sold like on his first 5. But okay, and that's including with the 5 mil. But okay.
Let me get to some of these super chats and we'll move on to ATLians. Jay Short says, my problem is not that Jay isn't performing. We all know that he's done. We all know he's done. For all his business acumen, Jay isn't uplifting hip-hop or younger artists either. Peter Parks with the $20
not his job,
super chat, showing love, says, Jay is for the culture of Jay. It's nothing wrong with that, but he is never just about the culture of music. Dame has also expressed this much. That's why he originally only wanted to make one album, then quit.
Correct.
Let's see, we got a couple more. Mad Max says, Jay is not hip-hop, but he put hip-hop on the Super Bowl. Jay cares about himself, yes, but he's done a lot for hip-hop. And you in the chat have to stop the hate.
I agree. He's very selfish, and he's done some very brilliant and great things for hip-hop behind the scenes and obviously on the mic. Still number 2.
Jay Short with the super chat says, funny how Leo Cohen, Rick Rubin, and Jimmy Iovine figure how to make money from hip-hop, but our artists live to separate themselves from it. That is an interesting thing.
I love that.
That is an interesting take.
It's fascinating.
And the fact that, the people who are really of the culture want to get away from it and prove to everybody else that they're more than the culture when you got people like Jimmy Iovine that says, nah, I'm going to get everything I can get out of this. Shit. Mad Max with the super chat says,
I was about to say some Django shit. Go ahead.
Mad Max with the super chat says, then what is Nas's run? Because 94, he wasn't the biggest artist. So you're going to say Nas' first run is 96? That's late. Stop it. I think that Nas was a heavy contributor in the game in 94. If you want to give that year to Biggie, fine. But in 96, 97, Jay was not even the top, 5 conversation, maybe in the streets. But on a mainstream level, all the stuff that was out in 96.
So first of all, Nas's run does see, this is why the sales become such a tricky thing, because when I was talking about Reasonable Doubt, I wasn't talking about the numbers. I was talking about the notoriety.
Right.
And so although Illmatic didn't do numbers, Mike, in 1994, and you know this, it was Snoop first of all.
Right.
94 is Snoop's year.
Yeah.
But Mike, the talk after Snoop,
Biggie is revisionist history.
It sure as fuck is. But Mike, the talk after Doggy Style is Ready to Die in Illmatic.
Mm-hmm.
It's Snoop's year, but it's Ready to Die in Illmatic.
Level, yeah. I mean, I remember hearing about Nas.
Yeah. 95 is the verbal intercourse, eye for an eye, more money, more murder run.
Yeah.
96 is It Was Written. 97 is The Firm. 98 is I Am. These are all multi-platinum albums, Mike.
Yeah. Leroy Green with the super chat says,
except for Illmatic.
If Jay came outside, he just eclipsed Nas's attention, and folks would be mad. Second, just making albums don't make you go.
Stop looking.
If that's the case, it's KRS-One.
Stop. No, it's not. Nas still has a better catalog than KRS, and KRS will tell you that. But this isn't also about comparing him to Nas. This is actually comparing him to his legacy. His own legacy. We don't have to bring up Nas to talk about Jay's legacy. Let's put it in comparison to your own legacy. And I say this respectfully. It's like Well, no, like your two best albums. It's like a lot of people have made albums that good. A lot of people, and none of them get the credit that you do. Like your best albums are Reasonable Doubt and The Blueprint. Mike, it's not like these. Mike, it's not like either one of those albums is better than Get Rich or Die Trying necessarily.
Well, like Jay said, man, never been a nigga this good for this long, this hood, this hotter, this popular, this strong. So it's a combination of things that makes him different. And I get that.
But that was different in a different time.
It was. It was.
Time.
DFW Herbie with the super chat says, Game did not end G Unit. Why do people be lying?
Why do people be lying and saying 50 ended Ja Rule when really it was the feds that ended Murder Inc. and literally froze all their assets and incapacitated them for about 3 years financially. But 50 made a diss record. That's what happened. That's what made the label shut down.
Back down.
It wasn't the feds literally running into the building and seizing all of their assets and paperwork.
And having to deal with the court costs and, lawyer fees and all that stuff. And Def Jam kind of stopped their support.
Definitely threw him the stiff arm, hit him with the Heisman.
It was a combination of things. Now, not saying that, 50 didn't really publicly put it on Front Street. But, it was more going on.
It's the Fed case.